Thanks for tuning into the trade setup today. I'm Niraj Shah, and boy, um, if you are a precious metals bull, you probably either taking this on your heart or you thinking that this is probably a one day or a few days move, a corrective move, which will change in time. But it was a sharp pullback for the precious metals in trade yesterday, and mind you, this trade has been starting. I mean, it looks like there's a bit of an unwind going on or a bit of profit booking going on. Now, viewers, remember, I've started off the trade setup today with this simply because this has repercussions depending on which view you take. Do you take a view that this is the start of the unwinding of the risk of safe haven trade or not? And that will determine a lot about what your equity stance would be as well. Therefore, I think it's important to read a bit about what's happening around in gold, whether this is a flash in the pan move or a profit booking move, or whether this is more sustainable simply because there could be winds of change. Simply because, I mean, a lot of talks, right, about uh, maybe a vaccine, maybe the US stimulus, etc. So all of these factors should be kept in mind. But simply put, the net effect, gold came off very, very sharply yesterday, silver even more so. And for the last few days, they've been correcting two or 3 days at least. Let's see if there is more in store. The US markets came off a bit yesterday, but you have to admit that the stock futures are still in the green. So yesterday, the Dow plunged a bit, Nasdaq, S&P 2 came off, but the stock futures have just moved up a little bit in today's session as we speak. So therefore, it's not as bad. Asia is though taking cues from what the US markets did overnight and not the stock futures. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for the Asian bourses. You have a bit of red as well, maybe one or two flashes of green, but largely you have the Asian screen not really correcting severely, but a bit of a pullback for sure. That's the HSI and the KOSPI for you at least. And you will see that there's a bit of a pullback out there, about 0.5% for the HSI, KOSPI 2 minorly in the red. And SGX Nifty 2 would indicate that you would have a start which will be somber, soft, if you will, if not somber, but certainly in the red. And you have to keep in mind that we've had some amazing pullbacks the last few days. The Nifty's been on a bit of an uptrend. So this could well happen on any given day. I do not know if this is the start of a trend, frankly. I mean, to me, the trade setup, the trend certainly looks upwards. But as I as I probably strongly believe right now, that near-term hiccups cannot be ruled out. And today could be a day of a hiccup. It could be an extended hiccup too. We could have 2 3 days of a pullback, if you will. Let's wait and watch. But I do think that the trend for now seems to be upward, simply because if you look at the VIX, if you look at the dollar index, which has started to harden, etc., is fine. Now we'll get to this chart a bit later on. First, the trade setup, the trend remains upwards, but the near-term hiccups are not ruled out. The benign global markets may act as a stimuli to the uptrend. Frankly, I do think that the global markets are benign as of now. If anything, if money starts getting pulled out of gold ETFs, etc., it's all positively pointing towards a risk-on trade as opposed to a risk-off. Though, um, mind you, quite unlike the previous times, both gold and the equity markets have risen in tandem, and therefore the past template may not quite hold. I think BFSI will likely continue doing well. So today may be an off day, but we've seen positive FI flows for the last few days. And typically, there's a bit of a correlation out there in the last few days. FI inflows coming in, banking and financial services tends to do well. So you might well have a pullback day today, but otherwise, BFSI seems to be well placed. However, the problem, viewers, and just one quick moment out here, is on DI flows. We know that the mutual fund flows have been patchy, but look at what the DI activity has been the last few days. They've been on a selling spree. It's spilled over to the seventh consecutive day, the DI outflows. And the DI sold 1,400 crore rupees worth of stocks in trade yesterday, which is the highest in the last 7 days. So the DI flows is also something that all of us have to keep an eye out for. Yes, FI flows are the most spoken about, but DIs have been big investors into the equity markets all of 2019, 2020, and maybe a better part of 2020 and whole of 2018 and 19. Let's see if there's a bit of a reversal out there. There are a few important results today. I'd watch out for some mid-cap names, in particular Aarti Industries, Aurobindo Pharma, very important set of numbers. We know what's happening to pharma stocks once they come out with good numbers. IPCA, case in point. TV is a case in point. Do watch out for Aurobindo. Bharat Forge and Bosch came out with Motherson Bosch came out with numbers yesterday. Bharat Forge comes out today. So the troika of large cap Auto Anks will come out, and Natco Pharma is the other really interesting one, wherein I know that what I hear that some very high quality investors have put in the money ahead of the numbers. So do watch out for this one too. And of course, when we come to stocks to watch out for the gold financing companies because of the gold price cuts. Manappuram Muthoot might be in action, but the ones that have numbers and some data backing them, one of them is RCF. That the market is not looking all that strong today, but RCF numbers were interesting. Revenues were down 32%. Actually, some of the other fertilizer names had revenue upticks too. But look at the bottom line numbers and the operational performance. EBITDA up 22%, margins at 6% versus 3.3% because of lower power, freight, and raw material costs, and net profit up 2.4 times. That's the telling part. I think some of these fertilizer companies have displayed some exceptional numbers. It'll be interesting to see if RCF reacts today. Metropolis, I thought numbers were better than anticipated and better than what some of the other diagnostic labs have done. So revenues were down 29%. No surprise there. Net profit was down 89% to 2.9 crores. But remember, the estimate was of a loss of 4 crores. So they've done better than that. Margins at 8.46% versus 27.1%. But mind you, the expectation was of a 3.8% margin number. They've delivered 8.6% or 8.46%. And therefore, uh, I think it could be an interesting stock to monitor today. And a small company, MPS, they've approved a share buyback at 600 rupees per share, much higher than the current market price, might be active. There are not too many larger names today. Adani Ports is one where the numbers came in better than estimates, and they're going to raise capital. So that's the other one that you would keep in mind. Finally, what stood out for me, and that's the chart that we were trying to show you earlier. Let's pull that out. Do you know which market performed the best YTD? And you would think of the FANG stocks, you would think of a bunch of others, but South Korea is the world's second best stock market since the March lows. And even if you expect that South Korea would have done that, you wouldn't have thought of the Argentinian bourses doing so well. The blue line is the Argentinian market, and that has done so exceptionally well since March. I mean, it's not Nasdaq, it's not, of course, it's not the Nifty. It are these markets. I mean, South Korea one can anticipate, but the Argentinian market really doing well. So surprises galore all around. However, could today be the day of a pullback? Certainly seems like that. Could it get extended? Could well be. But mind you, the Dow futures are flattish. And if indeed there is an unwinding trade from safe haven, act as a bit of a stimuli for the world markets. So keep that at the back of your mind as you map your trades. Have a profitable trading day ahead. Brace for volatility.